Petrol stations. We all know what they are, and most of us use them daily. But when did anyone last stop to take a look and appreciate the beauty of the petrol filling station? Probably never, and yeah, that's fair enough given that most petrol filling stations are not beautiful structures. But there was a time when this wasn't the case, and in England there's a petrol station still operating that has retained some of its original magic and beauty. So yeah, it's a video about a petrol station, but look at it. When did you last see a roadside structure like this? The Redhill petrol station, found on the A6 in Leicester, is what you might call a leftover from a different time of motoring. It was built in 1979, and whilst today is the only one left in the UK, there was a time where there would have been hundreds of structures like this around the country, and indeed it's believed that there are around 20,000 petrol stations with this design and layout across the world. But today that's no longer the case, and so many of these fascinating buildings have been lost. The person responsible for this unique petrol station design was Elliot Noyes, a United States-based architect and industrial designer who, in the 1940s and 50s, was busy designing residential properties before moving into design for IBM, his most notable work being the IBM Selectric typewriter. It's fair to say that he knew a thing or two about design, and that's probably why he was hired by the Mobil Oil Corporation, today known as ExxonMobil, but we'll call them Mobil. Mobil wanted to renew, boost and standardise the company's image across the world. The idea was that no matter where you were, you'd recognise a Mobil filling station and their products, so they asked Moyes to come up with a futuristic design that would separate them from the competition. He came up with circles. The canopies were circular, the filling pumps were circular, okay, cylindrical, but whatever. This design choice was a success and rolled out across all of Mobil's filling stations, the first of which would open in the state of Connecticut in 1967. Interestingly, Moyes wasn't the first to implement circles into a petrol station design. It's possible he took inspiration from the Skovshoved petrol station that opened in 1936 in Denmark, and surely we can all agree that this is an architectural masterpiece, and apparently is still open for business as well. The Redhill petrol station would open in 1979, making it perhaps one of the last Moyes-designed petrol stations built, and it features 6 circular canopies at varying heights that overlap one another. Each is supported by its own central column, and interestingly, rainwater that the canopies collect is drained off via this central column. It's not clear if it would have had the cylindrical petrol pumps or not. By the late 70s, it's very possible that a more standardised design was in place. Initially, the petrol station was a crisp white with minimal signage in line with the Moyes design, but because reasons in the 1990s, Mobil would become known as Esso in the UK, and the petrol station was rebranded accordingly. Unfortunately, this meant the loss of the clean white look because they added some horrible red striping to the canopies. Now at this point you may be wondering, if there were so many of these built, why are there so few left? Well, it turns out that whilst the Moyes petrol designs are wonderful to look at, there are some flaws in the design. Mainly, they're pretty crap at protecting you from the weather, but also circles are not space efficient and it's an expensive way to make a building. In most cases, over the years, these iconic petrol stations have been simply demolished or replaced with a better solution, meaning there's now only a handful of them left across the world. Today, as we've seen, Redhill petrol station is operated by BP and the canopies remain in place as per the original design, and that's because in 2012 the petrol station became a listed building. This is a status applied to structures that are of historical interest or important in some way, or in the case of Redhill petrol station, rare as rocking horse shit, and because of this, whoever owns the structure is required to keep it in its original state, making no significant changes. To be fair, this only applies to the canopies. Things like the shop building and the fuel pumps, they're all allowed to be changed, and indeed none of that's original. But the 6 circular canopies, while seeing some new paint and rebranding, are as original as you can get. An amazing 1960s design that lives on in 2024, and one that is very likely to never be repeated ever again because it's from a time when creativity, design and form overruled cost and function. The imagination was allowed to run just that little bit wilder, and examples of this are becoming harder to find as the years go by. Who would have thought we'd find such an example in a petrol station in Leicester? Thanks for watching.